Like many people that took a somewhat sideways approach to an art career without degree, I'm struggling. It has always been this way, but last month something happened that once again drove me further into disillusion. I had created a personal tattoo design over the course of a month or two even, with lots of consultations and revisions and love. And lastly, my client was incredibly happy and excited, and we made an appointment. However, unfortunate events towards the end of last year made it so that I had to urgently find more stable work to be able to pay my bills. I love tattooing, I love my clients, I love art in general. But unfortunately, this profession hasn't been able to guarantee my daily bread and butter yet. And thus, I'm still forced to take on other jobs to make ends meet. This year more than ever, as life keeps on dragging me through minefields. Thus, sadly, I was forced to postpone the session. My client reassured me at first that this is no problem. I kept him in the loop about my working schedule, writing him 3 messages over the course of the following week that were left unanswered. And after that 3rd one, he suddenly quit on me. Permanently and without any chance of redemption and any further regard. But he didn't just cancel on me. He called me shady and icky and questioned my commitment. And that even though I have been crafting a very personal tattoo for him over weeks, was very forthcoming about the issue at hand, asked if a postponement is okay, and checked in with him multiple times to let him know that I'm not forgetting about him. And on top of that, his sudden rejection occurred on the day of our originally scheduled appointment. Thus, no time had even passed yet. That gave my big heart some serious cracks and wrinkles. And it's generally worrisome for the future of my tattooing business, since I don't know if I will be able to sustain my clientele while working another job that ensures my survival, where painting and tattooing sadly fails to do so. But this is not about me. What happened here isn't just personal misfortune. It's part of a broader economical and ideological structure that turns art into a product that needs to be delivered as predictably and consistently as IKEA's Billy bookcase, which is something I would like to bring some awareness to today. When exploring the issue of art as a mere transaction, it's hard to ignore Karl Marx's idea of commodification. In the 19th century, Marx was talking about the fetishism of commodities, now sometimes also referred to as merchandization, a phenomenon that explains how something as sensitive and personal as art and tattoos can become a mere transactional good. According to Marx, capitalism turns everything, including human labor, relationships, and art, into a product or a commodity that exists primarily for exchange. My tattoo work, for example, isn't seen as an evolving and personal interaction with an at times seriously overwhelmed individual, aka moi, but instead as a fixed service contract that must be delivered on schedule like a mass-produced good, completely deprived of its human element. This pressure for productivity and efficiency stems, greatly simplified, from the management models of private companies that are being applied to all sectors of human activity, no matter if it's humane or sustainable to do so. It's especially arising in the context of a wildly competitive globalization, and it leaves quite the bitter aftertaste of blood, sweat, and tears that should be reserved for the emergency room, where artists are forced to prioritize survival over their creative work. Tension between passion and necessity is inevitable, and this tension might, in the worst case, lead to an outright alienation, where artists lose control over their creative output in order to conform to economic pressures. We become service providers in a business where personal struggles are seen as unprofessional, rather than a perfectly human reaction to rent increases and cervical cancer. This causes a shift from the healthy and loving patronage that art once was, to a transaction with strict service expectations, in which artistic labor is undervalued if it doesn't fit into the 9-to-5 model. The expectation that you always must be available despite having no financial safety net is a mindset that creates burnout, forcing many to finally leave their craft until they can afford to get back at the easel for fun in their retirement. But commodity fetishism doesn't just affect artists. The tragic scope of its implications is seen in many professions. The healthcare sector is gravely affected by insurance companies and healthcare systems that push doctors to see more patients in less time, reducing medical care to a numbers game. Social and care workers, mostly for disabled, elderly, and the homeless population, are often underpaid and undervalued because care work is not seen as productive in a capitalist world. Mental health professionals are expected to deliver quick fixes to deep emotional issues, instead of the service being treated as the time and effort requiring experience that it is. And on top of that, society expects care workers to be infinitely patient and giving, to always give 120% in their emotionally intense and human-centered profession, while capitalism treats us as just another bureaucratic service that has to be measured in billable procedures wages inside of fixed time slots. Corporate-style management strategies like performance metrics, profit margins, and cost-cutting simply shouldn't have any right to be where human lives are involved. Education is another sector suffering heavily from commodification. Especially in North America, it is treated as a service to be purchased, rather than a character-forming process that nurtures intellectual growth and the curiosity that is so dear to me. Teachers are pressured to prioritize grades over actual learning, because schools are run like businesses, with education often being reduced to standardized test scores and unusable degrees that need to be supplemented with more paid education to make any sense for a prospective employer. Baristas are expected to be endlessly cheerful and fast, regardless of their actual emotional state. Software developers are seen as code-producing machines, rather than creative problem solvers that can suffer from the occasional brain fog. Journalists have to bend sideways and backwards for SEO and clicks, while also surviving AI-generated content, instead of being allowed creative storytelling and deep investigation that leads to actually informative and intellectual articles. And YouTubers feel like they have to lose out on sleep to eject one video per week to be of value to the platform. In a commodified world, professionalism means acting like a machine, which ignores unnerving realities like financial instability, the precarious nature of personalized and creative work, but first and foremost the natural conditions of living a standard human life with all its anxiety-induced insomnia, few reborn weekday drinking relapses, and overly excited ankle-spraining staircase stumbles. Where human needs are being ignored in such ways, everyone loses. I'm losing my client that I have worked hard for, and my client loses me as an artist that gave him something that no one else can in the same way. All of this is especially sad because we all live at the same point in time and are held back and burdened by the same economy. If we don't have compassion for each other, who else will? I have yet to see a reality in which this commodified mindset is worth it for anyone involved. Because even the cutthroat businessman that pushes his employees to become a properly functioning piece of machinery for him loses something very important while gaining more equity. He loses the trust and goodwill of his workers. And with that, he further down the line loses their loyalty and friendship. And how can that be a good thing for social creatures like us? Now, where Karl Marx demonizes capitalism in its entirety for this heartbreaking dehumanization, Danish sociologist Gösta Asping Andersen examines the more balanced approach of the so-called welfare state. Andersen analyzed that some societies soften the harsh impact of commodification through welfare policies, where unlucky artists in highly market-driven countries, like for example the USA, are forced into financial insecurity. Countries like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark reduce their fellow citizens' dependence on the market by providing social protections like unemployment benefits, free healthcare, and pensions. Strong decommodification means that people can survive without being entirely at the mercy of market forces. It means that people don't have to take on just about any job, and that they can mess up every once in a while and gloss over that mess with chocolate chip cookies without being immediately punished for it. Unfortunately, though, these welfare mechanisms are out of reach for everyone not currently residing in one of those lucky countries, which also include Germany to some degree. Most of us are forced to operate inside these harsh economic battlegrounds, and thus the only thing you can do here is to remind yourself every day that every single person you interact with is a human that might have had their heart broken, or that had their pet pass away, or that got evicted from their home. Automatically you will give that baton of consideration to others, and they will pass it on to the next, and so forth, hopefully spreading that special form of love like a disease that is actually great to have. You and your neighbors don't have enough power over your government to escape commodification through Andersen's welfare policies. But there are some things at least artists can do to ease the pain a bit. You can challenge commodity fetishism by helping your clients see the human behind the art. You can share your process, your struggles, and maybe even personal details that you are comfortable sharing, to give your clients a clearer picture of the character that they have the pleasure of working with. You can build a community that will value your work beyond its price and time to create. And that is something that doesn't happen happen overnight. But the result is something way more valuable and sustainable than a quick buck. And you can and should set boundaries for yourself. Clients who see your work as a commodity are not your ideal audience. Find those who respect the craft and want to work with you, and not just get a pickle Rick tattooed from whomever for as quickly and cheaply as possible. For me personally, tattoos are a collaborative, creative process. A human engagement with artistic and life circumstances between two very specific people that come together to create something unique and beautiful. Take one of those people out of the equation and the whole process crumbles and the beauty disappears. There needs to be room for error on both ends to ensure that the specific artistic project sees the light of day. If art is just another product, we might lose what makes it human. Now, don't get me wrong, I think systems and rules are a good thing. I'm notoriously rebellious, but I'm not an anarchist. And I think that capitalism has its place in the world as a system that ensures that everyone gets their fair share of their labor and in return gets what they need and especially what they want for the money that they earned with it. Karl Marx idealized communism while totally overestimating altruism, so please be careful which bridges you burn. As already explored in my video about endless freedom, if humans can do whatever they want, they might thoughtlessly hurt others in the process. However, in this case, the system is the problem, I would say, because it lets something as feeling-oriented and personalized as art have no room to develop naturally anymore. We can absolutely falter and still be professional while collecting our bearings. Professionalism and human fallibility are not mutually exclusive and shouldn't be, even in a capitalist society. I personally do have feelings and they can be hurt. So please, be kind to your neighbor. Be attentive to your elders and be understanding towards your artist. Life is hard enough as it is. And I think it's important that we stick together wherever possible. That we treat each other with respect and empathy. And that when in doubt, we try to see behind the veil of every fellow human's behavior. By being patient, asking the right questions, and staying genuinely curious. Thanks for watching.